I opened, my meeting this week with my team, just talking a little bit about the realities of, whether you're celebrating victory or whether you're dealing with defeat and disappointment. Like, time marches on, so no matter what end of the spectrum you find yourself on from week to week, either the thrill of victory or the agony of defeat, time marches on. And I think the quicker that you can march on and get focusing in on, the next week, the next opponent, the remainder of your season, the goals that you all still have intact, I think the better off you're going to be. I think the most simple theme for this week for us is back to basics, kind of a very definitive understanding of the importance on our focus, our execution, our fundamentals, and our techniques. For the things that failed us last weekend, the things that really failed us the most in the most critical situations were this lack of fundamentals, this lack of technique, and our inability to really sustain our execution. So I think that's where we began the week. We had a very spirited practice yesterday. I don't say that, a lot or very often. More practices are more similar than different, I think, through the course of a year in terms of what you do and what you witness as the coach. But I felt yesterday was more spirited. There was a certain legitimate sense or realization of the focus, the execution. And I think the word is really purpose. It's like anything that we do. We do everything here with purpose. I mean, everything that we orchestrate is done with purpose. We don't do anything by happenstance, So I felt like our team took the field yesterday with purpose, which you'd like to think they do every day. And in its simplest form, we want to play fast, we want to play physical, and we want to play smart. And I can't sit here and say that we did that a week ago. So it's time marches on. We're on to Colgate here, which is an outstanding football team, extremely well coached, very, very deserving of a top 20 ranking. And their accolades from a year ago are very real. Not only their accolades, but their accomplishments going on the road and winning some very difficult places against some very quality opponents. So we're going to have to truly be at our best here this week, and we're certainly excited to be back home. At this time, I'll take any questions here from the media.
Hey, Danny, Colgate's a bit of a mystery down here. Can you give us sort of a nutshell what they are?
Yeah, they are in a lot of ways like us. Their enrollment is very similar. They're an academic institution. They are historically a proud football program. I know when Coach Biddle was there, they had numerous runs. Coach Hunt is doing a phenomenal job with the program. And they are kind of right back to being in that realm. Offensively, they are a little more of the zone read, shotgun, run pass option kind of a team. They have a running back that is very good, very dynamic, a little shorter in stature, but hard runner, very physical. They make you have to squeeze and tackle him like you would in an option wishbone type of offensive scheme, and the quarterback is fast. He is a slasher. He's the kind of guy that will attack the edge and, dip and slip to the outside or attack your outside edge and cut north and south. He's the kind of guy that can go the distance if you have space in there. The receivers are tall. They got, when we see them, we'll know, but we got two guys that are 6'3" or 6'4" plus. Their best receiver is 6'1". And last week, he threw 5 touchdown passes up at Yale. You don't beat Yale 55-13. Okay, and not be good. So they got it going on. systematically, Offensive line, they're good-looking kids. They're not necessarily, knock you off the ball and create space. They're more zone blocking. They're more option football blockers. They're athletic. They can control their bodies, get in and out of position, seal off linebackers, create creases for the back or the quarterback. Did I mention he threw 5 touchdown passes last week? Did I mention that already? Okay, defensively, they're 3-4. I've played a couple Patriot League schools that were good when we've played them. We've played some good Lafayette teams, played some good Lehigh teams, and this is the best version of a Patriot League team that I've seen. And I'm saying that more as I'm thinking about the defense, but defensively, they've got a disruptor at defensive end, very athletic out of the 3-4. Their nose tackle is really stout and really good. And they got a linebacker that is extremely productive. Probably summation, they've got 17 returning starters back from a team that went 9-5 and won 2 postseason games on the road against quality opponents. Whether it's 8 on offense and 7 on defense or vice versa, 17, 9-8 or 8-9, I don't recall in the moment. But much like us, a team that had a good run a year ago, a team that has a lot of quality players back. So a lot of similarities in that way.
You mentioned what they were able to do last year. Does the fact that they went on the road at programs that your kids are very familiar with give a little bit more credence and a little more attention to what they were able to do?
Yeah, it should. And then, like for me, it got my attention last year because I knew we were going to play them. So when these scores come across and these games are being played, you're always tracking people that you have on your schedule. So I tracked both of those scores pretty closely and have certainly studied the film. But I think that your point is correct. We'd be fools to not offer that as validation. Because there is a reality that in different geographical areas, we don't have quite the familiarity, with teams in other leagues. So here's some cross-references that are very meaningful to us as we recognize what it takes to go to New Hampshire or go to James Madison and win a football game.
Brian Brown's getting close to a record here. Is that as much a reflection of his ability or the way Richmond and other schools play football these days? A lot of passing going on. Michael Strauss was here. You guys passed a ton.
Well, let me focus in on his ability because I think he is a extremely rare and gifted athlete, very smooth and natural. I think, John, to your point, there's a misconception sometimes out there for some of these receivers that want the ball. They want to get in these spread offenses, and they find themselves catching 16 balls, but 8 of them are for 3 yards, and it's catch and run. Our system isn't like that. Okay, we're throwing Brian the ball down the field, and he does have volume of catches, but it really is the yardage that makes the biggest difference and that separates him maybe from some other guys that might have more catches. So I think the system has offered an opportunity for the volume of yards because of our aggressiveness and our ability to throw the ball down the field. But his talent is what has allowed us the confidence to get the ball to him and to do it repetitively.
I don't think you would have told us this last week, but did you notice anything about your players in practice where they might have been reading their press clippings or listening to us talk about them a little bit too much?
I'm going to say no. I think that I addressed it as I always do. My communication is more along the lines of, ignore the noise, rise above the chatter, I think that there is a reality, and I've said this to my guys, even the people that are the nearest and dearest to us say the wrong things, and they offer the wrong message. And when you're getting texts from people that are your friends talking about Frisco, Texas, you're like, what are you talking about? Or, I mean, well, where's that coming from? What would make someone say that to the coach? What would make someone say that to one of my kids? It just doesn't make any sense. So I'm 100 years old, so I'm able to kind of maybe eliminate some of that chatter a little easier because I just know it's just static. Okay, it's absolute painstaking static. And then maybe sometimes for the younger, less experienced, they entertain it. And you have no business entertaining it. You say, okay, your team wasn't ready to play last week. Well, we jumped up 7-0. Okay, so maybe we were ready to play. Maybe we weren't ready to finish. So all these things are in play. And my job is to figure it all out and find a way to offer the right messaging. I got a text message from Al Groh earlier in the week, and Al's a mentor of mine. Al's been 100% supporter of me throughout. And he said, Danny, he said, your message this week will be more important than your schemes. And I think there's some truth to that. And I started with Time Marches On. I started with Back to Basics. I started on the messaging of what we have to do. Play fast, play physical, play smart. Obviously, the schemes and the schematics and the calling of the game will be critical. But I do think the messaging and the mindset has got to be right. And it's my job to get it right. And we weren't right last week.
Coach, are you seeing anything that leads you to believe that the running game is close to maybe breaking out a little bit? I know it's some uncertainty with Gordon being down, and the stats weren't where you'd want to see him last week. But is there anything that you're seeing that leads you to believe it's close?
I think it's all to be determined. I think that there's and we're a week further along, so I think this is good. But there's an element that a player brings to the game. One element is production. Another element is presence. Okay, Gordon had production and presence. So we might be able to do something with the production. Okay, but what was lacking, especially early in the game last week, was his presence. And you can say that about a number of players on my team. They got, you might be able to put someone else in to play the position and play it pretty well. But it's that presence that they have, that air of confidence that they have, experience that they have, that all of a sudden got removed. So I feel that was a little bit real last week, especially early. We put so much on Kyle, and now Kyle has younger backs back there. He wants to make sure they know what protection we're in, wants to make sure they know, what we're doing pre-snap, post-snap, identifying the mic. There's a lot of different things involved there. And so I think that first week there without Gordon, I think there was a little bit of a missing in that area of leadership from that position. I feel better this week. I feel better because these kids are coming along and they're getting more reps in practice as being the guy. Standing in the first huddle is a big deal for a college athlete. When you crack the starting lineup, it's a big deal. And the first time you run out there, when they say, well, give me the one offense, and you run on the field, or the one defense, and you run on the field, and you get huddled up with that group, I mean, it's pretty significant, So at least we're a week further along with that process for some of these young kids.
Following up real quick, is it safe to say that presence is acquired and you can't really teach it, you have to grow into it?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I do think some people have more leadership qualities and maybe some more confidence. But there is no substitute for experience.